Maybe?
Check.
There you go.
Hi, Peter. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, I just wanted to ask, I think you do a great job managing the community, but I want to let you know, I took maybe 3 hours of my time and chased down the cost of everything you listed in the July and August newsletters for the name change. And just want to tell you, it comes in at less than $100,000. That's talking to a lawyer, marketers, signage people, vehicle detail people, uniform people. And I just wonder, because it required so little effort, why we didn't get the actual cost and instead got exaggerated costs, which really turned many people against voting for a name change. Why that work wasn't done, and why you all think this issue is over. I think we need to have a vote in the spring, to be fair.
Thank you for the comment. I listed what I felt were the issues. I don't agree with the $100,000 number at all. It's far more than that. I don't have an exact amount. That is a number that the Finance Committee could come up with if they wanted to, but at this point, the Board of Directors has closed that chapter, and we're moving on.
Amen.
Next question.
I have a question about stormwater drainage, a project that affects my street and neighborhood. It's now in its 5th delay, and which I find hard to believe, in as much as David is so good at scheduling and budgeting and getting funds for this stuff. So, who is it who actually makes the decision to delay and move around different projects on this schedule?
Where do you live, sir?
I live on Adventure Cali Lane.
Okay, is that a town one, David? On Adventure Galley Lane?
Yes, we don't have a storm drain there. We have a storm ditch.
Yes, it did.
And the ditch silts in from time to time. Every couple of years, I call David and he sends over a backhoe or guys with shovels to fix it. And this project was on the books for last year. And it got kicked around a little bit. It was supposed to be done at the end of the year, and then the funds went away. That often happens. And it's, like I say, it's now in its 5th delay. And I just don't understand how it can keep getting kicked to the bottom of the pile. And who is it who's directing David to rearrange the priorities?
Is it a town project, David, or is it our project?
It's a ditch cleaning project, and speaking testimony is going to hand and hopefully by the end.
Okay, are we going to backfill the town, or is it ours?
No, there's no, other than a street flooding issue, there are no structural flooding
Okay.
issues.
So it's just us? Okay, and when do you have it scheduled?
That's up to Steve. He looked at it last week, and I'm hoping he'll get to it before the end of the year. I'm sure that he will.
Okay. We're sorry for the delay, sir, but we will get to it by the end of the year. Who directs David? David directs David. I give David a lot of autonomy to deal with the issue. So David, can move that project up or move that project back depending on his priorities. So David and I have a conversation about it.
Yeah, I just want to ask about the automated gate in Cypress Gate.
Yeah, I want to talk about that too.
Good.
We have either a bad batch of a couple of decals, and mine works 99% of the time, but we have a few, and we've had the contractor out to redo all the software, clean the lens, but we think there may be a couple of decals, barcodes that may be bad. So if you have an issue with it, please come up to the office, have the gals check the actual barcode, and if it's defective, we need to replace it.
They are coming back out again this Friday to do,
When
Yeah,
I
I
was to
mean,
look at it,
it's.
I know, it's frustrating, I get it.
Oh, I'm sure it drives the guards nuts.
Well, it drives the security officer nuts.
Yeah, it's, I mean, maybe the barcode faded. Mine worked for a couple of years, but lately it's been different, so.
You know, they
I'll
do,
go to
they
the
do
POA.
wear out in time.
especially if they're parked out in the sun, they will
Oh,
weather.
That
And if
may
you
be-
look at it and you see like either little black dots,
It's translucent.
it's losing a little bit of its. But there are obviously, I mean, I personally go through it all the time. My way to keep the track on it. And like Peter said, it works almost all the time, but occasionally I do have that.
Okay.
I have had a couple weird incidents with a spider web built in there one time. Clean that out.
Margie, where are you?
Do you have an update on the lawsuit from the city against the Beaufort Town Council? Because I understand the additional charge is going to start appearing on our tax bills.
I don't know where that particular lawsuit is, and they you know, on any lawsuit, they usually keep it close to the vest. But I think I shared with you, you know, once before, I did a survey with my colleagues in all the gated communities, and collectively, $9.2 million is what's budgeted for security services. Now, obviously, not every dime of that goes to law enforcement, but it sure takes a huge burden off the Beaufort County Sheriff's deputies who do not come in here and regularly patrol. They come in when they're called, or you know, there is a particular issue, but we take care of law enforcement.
Hi, Peter.
Hi.
The sand that you poured on the island, what is the ultimate goal there? Because since Matthew, we've still lost, and even in the past 6 months, we've lost another 50 feet of the beach or the island itself. It's not just the walkway over there, but it's the island itself that's disappearing. So what is the ultimate goal of all the sand?
Well, the ultimate goal of the sand is to keep the spit between the connection between the two. And obviously, you know, the sand migrates, and we're trying to prevent the marsh from being inundated with the tides right now. As far as Pine Island itself goes, we may, in the long term, look to go back to a sand scraping scenario, which we were disallowed by DHEC about 10 years ago from doing. This used to be, for $225,000, I could move 20 times as much sand by scraping it from around the side of Pine Island and bringing it back over to the spit. But it was disallowed. We're hoping that that there's a change of heart with that, and we're going to be looking at, probably not next year, but the year after, engaging an ecological firm that does that specifically does that type of engineering work to see if they can negotiate with DHEC and the Army Corps of Engineers to allow us to go back to sand scraping again. You know, we asked residents, would they be willing to pay the extra money, you know, an extra couple of bucks to do that. It comes to about $24 a year per resident. And overwhelmingly, the last time we surveyed, they said yes. So we continue to do it.
My question has to do with tree stumps. As trees are cut down, the stumps remain. The entrance has, off 278 has several stumps. Dalton had several stumps. Is there any effort to grind those stumps down to gravel?
Generally, no, we don't in the common areas. If it's a high visibility area, we'll take a look at it. I don't know if, David, do you have any plans on those?
Unless it involves a safety issue, not driving.
We leave them alone. It's just too expensive a chore to do. You know, if it's a high visibility area, you know, we will take a look at it, but generally no.
Earlier this fall, I think it's called Bay Point, across the water was turned down by the county, and I understand that they are, retrying to get that approved. And my question is, I don't understand what our, setup is, or our rules for people driving into the plantation, going to a, I believe they're going to be using the marina for parking and transport position. I just wondered what our rules are and how much parking is over there, and if you know anything more about their attempt to get that reversed.
I know that it was turned down by the Board of Zoning Appeals for the county. I know that the developers have appealed that in the courts. How long that takes and whether it goes or not, you know, your guess is as good as mine. The parent company for that group bought Windows on the Waterway. And right now they're operating it as a convenience store, a marine store. They're actually going to advertise in Plantation Living. I think you can go over there and get a loaf of bread and get coffee and, you know, milk and whatever. I think they're going to do yoga classes out on the deck and some other things as well. There is very, very limited parking there, so I don't know how they would, you know, do parking. If someone came in, just like if it was the old Ford Pub, and said, I'm going to the old Ford Pub, if they said they were going to that facility, we would give them a designated pass to that facility and that facility only, the same as a golf course. They're a commercial enterprise, and they have a right to have folks from the outside, you know, come in. So at this point, that's where it is. If that gets developed and that morphs into something else, we're going to have to look at that, obviously. But it's way too soon, and that's the status. Other questions?
Our road, Myrtle Bank Road, has several repairs. Is there anything in the future to improve Myrtle Bank Road?
We paved that not too long ago, and we do patch. And if the road has integrity, we're going to patch it. We know that it doesn't look perfect, but patching is, you know, far less expensive than repaving the entire road. And there are some roads, because of root intrusion, that are just more prone to, you know, heaving in certain areas, and you just don't repave the entire road for that one item. As long as the structural integrity of the road is intact, we'd rather patch it than redo the whole road. And that one has been done in the last 10 years or so.
Has the community experienced any COVID-19 issues?
Of course. I have no idea. You know, I've had staff members who've had it. So, you know, I mean, I'm sure there are many community members who have it. Those are private health issues. I don't have statistics on that. And, you know, I do on the staff, but that's their personal business. And right now, I'll tell you that no one on staff is out because of COVID-19. Over in the cheap seats.
Our new resident.
So, Sea Pines has been experiencing some governance issues that have put quite a stake in the property owners versus their management. Are you aware of that, and do you have any comment as to will that happen here? Or will we have STDs and those aren't transmitted diseases here?
You know, Sea Pines, Shipyard, Palmetto Hall, I'm sorry, not Palmetto Hall, Palmetto Dunes are totally different animals from us. Their primary focus is tourism. And there are folks who live there full time, and they may not like that. And there is a constant tug between the tourist section and the full-time property owners. There are probably in Sea Pines less than 25% property owner occupied homes. In Palmetto Dunes, I would venture it's around 17% property owner. In Shipyard, maybe 25%. So the management there and the resort owners there, their focus is on tourists, and that's their business. We make no bones, and I've said this publicly, and I say it in writing, about that we are about full-time residents. And obviously you passed an amendment to our governing documents limiting short-term rentals. And we're about short-term rentals. In Sea Pines, they have 3 different entities that they deal with. They have the property owner entity, they have the resort entity, and then they have the commercial entity. And they're all over each other. And obviously, the full-time residents there feel as though they're disenfranchised, and the commercial owners and the resort are not paying their fair share. And the resort owners feel that they are because of all the improvements that they make to the property, which increases their property value, so they have a yin and a yang. And we do not have that here. I do not anticipate that we will have it here. We're a residential community, and we're going to stay focused as a residential community unless the board leadership drastically changes and you vote to change the governing documents to something else. Okay? Margie?
Hi, Bob Voice is my name. I was wondering if you'd ever considered having an engineering firm look to limit the wave action at Pine Island, thus limiting some of the erosion of the sand. I don't know how expensive it would be. I know there are ways of doing it, but they could be very costly.
Yeah, and it's a great question, and yes, we have looked at doing a riprap buffer, and actually are exploring the possibility of doing an oyster shell buffer to break up the wave action. Both are very expensive, and both would need the Army Corps of Engineer and DHEC approval. But those are 2 things that we're going to continue to look at. They're both really good ideas, but getting them through all of the bureaucracy is very, very difficult. Actually, the oyster shell would be easier because they actually have a component of DHEC who does that because they like the idea of using a natural type element to use as that wave break. However, you're talking about millions and millions of oyster shells that would have to be bagged and put out there to establish that kind of a reef. But yes, we have looked at that. Good question. Anyone else? Turned out, I don't know about you, but it's getting warm where I'm standing. All right. We have, I think today was Lori, was today closing day or was yesterday closing day for board nominations? Yesterday was closing day for board nomination. Nominating committee will work on that. We will publish a list of candidates in the February edition of Plantation Living. The next coffee we have will be in February, and we hopefully will be doing it indoors, but maybe not, and we'll introduce the candidates. One more thing, in this pandemic has done, and we talked about this at the Finance Committee this morning, the auditing firm that we use doesn't make house calls anymore. And usually, before the end of the year, we have the auditors come in and sit in our ARB room for about 2 weeks, and they interact with staff and they get all the information that they need to do their preliminary legwork for the audit. Well, this is all going to have to be done remotely now, which is going to put a strain on staff And it's probably will, like we did last year, it will delay the audit and the annual, it won't delay the annual report, but the audit will end up being a separate document from the annual report. Again, we'll have it ready for the annual meeting, but it will not be with the annual report. Kind of want to set expectations for that. It's just the nature of this beast, and hopefully this vaccine that has been developed gets distributed very, very quickly, and we all decide to take it, and we can go back to living our lives normally again. And that's all I have. I really appreciate you coming out on this crisp morning, and wish you all a happy Thanksgiving, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and stay safe. And, you know, hopefully you'll be able to visit with grandchildren and children from an appropriate distance and safely. So take care. Thank you.